Hi guys, it's Marc Zicree, writer for Star Trek The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Babylon 5, Sliders, many things, and also Marc Zicree of Space Command and Marc Zicree, Mr. Sci-Fi. And the fans have been demanding it, asking for it. Do your Last Jedi commentary. Okay. So, first of all, there are going to be spoilers, so if you're one of the few people in, Zimbabwe or Alaska or the Arctic Circle who have not seen The Last Jedi, then turn this off. But I assume most of you have seen The Last Jedi, particularly if you're sci-fi geeks. Now, so there's going to be spoilers. Of course there's going to be spoilers. But, and also to preface something, the first Star Wars movie came out when I was an adult. So if I'd been 13, 12, or younger, it would have been what Star Trek is for me, which would have been the thing I'd been waiting for all my life that finally arrived. The one thing about Star Wars, the original Star Wars, that was really interesting, and also some of you know who are Mr. Sci-Fi fans that I was an art major at UCLA, and when I was an art major, they had a posting for an artist needed for a Flash Gordon kind of film. And so I actually submitted. I did some drawings, and I submitted, and I didn't get the job because they hired Ralph McQuarrie. So I was there at the very beginning of the Star Wars. But that is a tale for another day, or a tale I just told you, actually. But Star Wars came out, and the thing that was cool about Star Wars, even to someone in his early 20s as I was that all of the things we'd been reading about in printed science fiction, in the novels, this was the first movie that actually presented all of them. The cantina scene, the land speeder, all of those amazing visuals that we'd had in our heads when we were reading science fiction, but no one had ever done a movie that showed all of those amazing things. So that's where Star Wars was astonishing, even to adults who were science fiction fans at that point. But if you were a kid, it was just, hugely influential, and of course has had a tremendous influence on an entire generation of young people and every generation since. So let's talk about The Last Jedi. It's of course written and directed by Rian Johnson, who did Looper, which is a film I'm a big fan of. I thought it was a terrific film, and in some ways I was looking forward to The Last Jedi greatly because of that. And for me, it's a bit of a disappointment. And it delivers in many ways. It's entertaining. It's got great visuals. The acting is very, very, very good. But there's something that just doesn't land for me. That doesn't have an emotional punch. And again, to put it in perspective, films that I've liked of recent days, very much liked Mad Max Fury Road, very much liked Blade Runner 2049, although it's a flawed film, but a good one, very good one, like Westworld, etc. But Looper, just to compare Looper and Last Jedi, Looper had stakes. It had a character who finds his humanity, who sacrifices everything because he comes to care about a woman and her son. It was a very interesting science fiction story, and for me it had real emotional content, and really was very moving ultimately. The Last Jedi, a lot of the characters spend most of the movie not being terribly effective. So, for instance, Rey has this mental image with Kylo Ren / Ben Solo, and it's will he turn, won't he turn? He doesn't blow up his mom, but then later he says, kill them all, kill them all. So clearly he no longer cares about his mom. For me, Kylo Ren goes from point A to point A. He really doesn't change, and he just wants to be the emperor or the supreme being or whatever the hell it's called now. I mean, this isn't the same old news. For me, Star Wars has a very small bag of tricks. At least they didn't have the Death Star, blowing up the Death Star in this one like they've had in so many of the Star Wars films. And JJ's Star Wars film and this one at least are aimed at the adult audience as well as the kids, whereas the second 3 films that George Lucas did were kids' movies, were very much oriented to be kids' entertainments. They were kind of silly and kind of they had a story that could have been wonderful if it had had a real writer aboard, and unfortunately it didn't. If they had gotten Lawrence Kasdan to write the second 3 films, it would have been a spectacular trilogy, because the story was valid. It's about a wonderful golden child becoming Darth Vader, growing up to be Darth Vader, and I think that could have been a terrific story that could have delivered enormously on that potential if they had just not had it be so many things oriented toward kids, and so much oriented toward toy sales and all of that. So, but let's just go down Last Jedi for a few minutes. Let's talk about the ins and outs of it and see what we like, what we don't like. You may well agree or disagree, but this is just my take on all of this. First of all, it's great to see Mark Hamill playing Luke Skywalker. He's wonderful, and it's fun to play the parallels with Obi-Wan Kenobi. But on the other hand, he's just kind of saying, well, I'm not going to help you. I don't want to be a Jedi anymore. I'm the last Jedi, blah, blah, blah. So he's just kind of waffling for a long time. And then finally he says, well, okay, I will teach you. But the lessons he's teaching her, he's like, it's not about moving rocks. And then at the end, she is moving rocks. And then he's saying, well, and basically the basic message is be in the moment, burn down the past. They burn down the Jedi books, they burn down the Jedi temple. But again, Kylo Ren is saying exactly the same thing. Be in the moment, burn down the past. He kills Han Solo. He's willing at the end to kill his mom. He doesn't care. And in these days, with everything that's going on in the real world, we need so much to learn from the past. I really don't think the message, be in the moment, burn down the past, is a great message. And it really brings up the issue of how relevant is Star Wars, and how relevant is it versus being just a mass entertainment that Disney is creating once a year now, or more, depending on the various iterations of Star Wars. And there's nothing wrong with mass entertainments, but the fact that it's now a franchise being driven by Disney. Kathleen Kennedy is running it like you would run a TV show, where it's basically you mix and match the pieces. It's the continuity of the property. It's maintaining the property. If you don't like a director, you get rid of the director. If you don't like a writer, you get rid of the writer. It's a challenging thing because certain things are at war with it being meaningful. And Rey is basically kind of misled through most of it, thinking that Kylo Ren will turn, when it's just basically the Supreme Being putting that in her head to misguide her. And ultimately, Kylo Ren really doesn't care much about her. It's more about killing the Supreme Being so he can be that guy. Luke Skywalker is involved in the big Obi-Wan Kenobi Darth Vader kind of fight at the end, but he's not really there. But then somehow the strain of doing that, which they've never even established him being able to do, he dies. But of course, when Jedis die, they just kind of come back as glowy beings like Yoda. So it doesn't have the weight that the death of Han Solo had, because Han Solo is a human, not a Jedi, and he's probably not going to be coming back. So there's an issue of the stakes and the meaning of the stakes. The structure's okay. The First Order is chasing down the rebels. Okay, fine. It's great to see Carrie Fisher again, and she has a much more meaningful role in this one than the last one. That's great. Daisy Ridley's strong. They're kind of setting up her having a little bit of a thing for Oscar Isaacs, and then of course John Boyega's Finn will now kind of maybe there's a romance with Rose Tico down the road. So it's okay, though. The real person who seemed to have kind of a nice little chemistry with Oscar Isaacs that they didn't play out was Laura Dern, because there was a scene between her and Oscar Isaacs where there was a real kind of heat, and I kind of liked that. But of course, would they do an older woman with a younger man? It's a kind of relationship we don't tend to see often in science fiction or in the media in general, but it would be nice if you did, because I think Laura Dern would be perfectly cool in a romance with Oscar Isaacs. But of course, she sacrificed herself, so we're not going to see that. And then there was that questionable quality of the purple hair. I don't know about that. For me, it was a little funky, but again, each of us has our own buttons to be pushed. Benicio Del Toro was kind of, he betrays them, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of, they're playing a riff on Empire Strikes Back there, with Lando Calrissian. It's okay. Benicio Del Toro is not one of my favorite actors. Some people like him, some don't. Again, it's your personal taste as to actors. I think Kelly Marie Tran is really great as Rose Tico. She's kind of like an Asian fangirl, which is kind of neat. And I liked her. I thought she was really good. And I want to see more Asians overall in lead roles. I think it's important. But again, I thought this was going to be a great film, and it's an okay film, and also, it's, and as I say, it's not the Death Star, but they've got a Death Star cannon, which is okay. But beyond that, and Gwendolyn Christie's in it as Phasma. I wish they would have shown her face. They show her eye at the end, but it's like, well, she would have been great if she just took the helmet off, and it would have been fine, and it would have been fun, and we love her in Game of Thrones, and but. So basically, overall, Star Wars is entertaining. The young Han Solo film will probably be good now that Ron Howard's doing it. I think JJ did a great job of bringing Star Wars back as a viable property. He's a great interpreter. He's not an innovator, but he knows to look at what's cool about something and play to that. He did that with Star Trek, brought that back, brought Star Wars back. Some people hate his Star Trek interpretation, but it was financially successful, and that kept the franchise alive. And so now this is much more about keeping franchises alive, keeping them viable, and that's all to the good, because any given Star Wars film may be weak, may be strong, but they're certainly well produced. The production values are very, very good. The production level, the performance level, the directing is very, very skilled. So Last Jedi is going to have some people who love it, some people who don't love it. For me, I'm kind of in the middle, but because and I'll explain why. Let's talk about Fury Road for a moment, comparing it with Last Jedi. Mad Max Fury Road took Mad Max and took it to a level we'd never seen before, had a great female lead, had set pieces we had never seen in Mad Max before. I thought it was phenomenal and wonderful. And the fact that its director was 70 years old, it was very much an auteur film, written and directed by someone with a real vision and something to say about feminism, about our culture, about all of those things. So that for me was a reinvention that really went somewhere. This is just continuing what we've seen before, doing okay with it. So that's basically it for now. Mr. Sci-Fi channel, subscribe to it. We'll be doing a lot more. We'll be talking about Handmaid's Tale shortly, and that's it for now. So, but again, Last Jedi, if you want an entertaining film, if you want to go and have a good time with popcorn, it's the film for you. So anyway, that's it for now. Talk soon. Bye-bye.